Georgia parents failing drug tests.
And then I just started crying. I didn't know what to do. I was shocked.
Their kids kept in state custody as a result.
Now she wants to come home. She really doesn't understand what's going on.
And now some drug testing labs are under strict scrutiny.
These are not one-offs. This actually is kind of just routine in our child welfare system.
When sobriety is stolen, families pay the price. Our investigation leading to families reunited, parents cleared, children return home. When systems fail, people pay the price. We trace the damage, expose the truth, and fight to fix it. This is Uncovered by Atlanta News First Investigates.
What if a single strand of hair decided who tucks your child in tonight? In Metro Atlanta, parents say drug tests got it wrong and families paid the price.
Over the next hour, we're exposing how state contracted labs and their hair testing practices can misread legal medications as illicit drugs. We begin with a mother who says her sobriety and the time with her children were stolen.
I think I got it set for like 330 degrees. I wanted something that's more than a picture.
The heat press machine on Britney Tucker's kitchen table, it was for personal reasons at first. Then came the professional ones too.
So I've got a large company shirt order coming in.
People wanting to memorialize a loved one. Grief Britney knows about well.
After my brother passed away, I took it the wrong way and I turned to drugs.
The addiction caused intervention in 2016 from Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services, or DFACS. Within 2 years, the state had removed all of her kids from her Grayson home, including a newborn daughter. When drugs are the basis of a Georgia child welfare case, a judge can require the parent submit to hair follicle drug screens. Since 2016, DFACS contracted workers showed up to collect specimens to send off to drug testing labs.
I didn't get sober for myself. I did it for my kids.
She says she was sober with no more relapses by 2019. Just one problem. According to the state subcontracted lab results, multiple times when Britney claims she was sober, she tested positive for methamphetamine.
I don't know if there's any words to actually put to describe that.
An Atlanta News First investigation uncovered the labs the state subcontracts have a history of false positive allegations. The companies are Avra Health and Expertox.
There is so many what I would say are false positives.
Attorney Doris Good represents Britney and advised the mom to start getting tested at independent labs too.
What's happening is defects are turning up positive and independent labs are turning up negative.
Her attorney Doris Good argued in Gwinnett Juvenile Court the hair follicle testing by the two companies can and does result in false positives.
The cases where our clients are staying sober is really, it's sad that they're losing their children because of false positives.
Britney claims not only was her time with her kids robbed, but her sobriety stolen too.
Oh my God. You try to put on a brave face for them.
They are positive.
Atlanta News First Investigates took Britney's case to a veteran toxicologist. Ted Simon spent more than a decade at the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA.
Based off of your expertise, how reliable are these hair tests?
The hair tests are not reliable.
Federal guidance outlines disadvantages of hair testing include environmental contamination, adding it's difficult to interpret results. Concerns far from new. Atlanta News First Investigates found several civil suits pending against the two subcontracted labs, alleging similar patterns of false positives. In court filings, the companies deny the allegations. In Michigan, the Child Welfare Agency terminated its contract with Avra Health over the claims, and in Texas, Expertox license revoked after allegations of inaccurate results and misconduct. And here in Georgia, our Atlanta News First investigation uncovered since at least 2018, DFAC's leadership has known about major issues. State records show emails, reviews, and complaints from DFAC's workers. Avra Health allegations, 3 false positives in one case. The testing is not 97 to 99% accurate. False positive, training and cross-contamination. A county juvenile judge saying they will no longer accept the results in their courtroom. Avra Health would not interview but says they've never been informed of a credible concern, adding they stand by their results from their accredited lab. As for Expertox, state records show DFAC's workers had significant concern about validity of future test results. A mom's false positive for meth due to environmental exposure or over-the-counter medicine. Expertox now responding.
I was hired as a lab director to address laboratory operation concerns.
That's Dr. James Borland, the Expertox lab director hired in 2022. He says he's implemented a two-step approach to testing and confirmation now. He maintains there's no current pattern of faulty results. But Borland admits to knowing of at least one recent Georgia claim of a false positive hair test. He found the explanations of environmental contamination or the use of over-the-counter medicine were plausible.
I would agree that I can't rule out external contamination.
Turns out the company did not run a specialized test in that case. Historically, they haven't run it in other cases either. The test is called DL isomer, and although not required by the state, it could help rule out concerns of false positives because the method can determine legal forms of methamphetamine like nasal spray or an inhaler.
But why don't you guys use the test that would help?
There is. We performed a study. I agree. The DL isomer test is what needs to be done.
I mean, these are people's kids being taken away. So you're saying the test wasn't being used up front at the labs in Georgia, but you're willing to make sure that test is available at the labs in Georgia now?
This had nothing to do. Well, I mean, if we did the test and we didn't do an isomer test, then I'm willing to send it out to get an isomer test done.
Borland explains they didn't always have access to the specialized test, but he says now he'll make it a priority across Georgia.
It's just difficult to find a lab that can effectively do it.
But I mean, there are lives literally on the line, so it's...
Yeah, we can do that. And I'll make it my priority.
A move Britney Tucker wishes would have come sooner. Back in her kitchen, this time she gets to use the heat press to memorialize a thank you.
These are like little tote bags that I made
for her attorney.
Without her, none of this would be possible.
The DFAC's case officially closed, her kids finally home.
Parents don't quit on their kids or quit fighting, especially if they're in the right.
Ahead on Uncovered, growing claims of faulty state-ordered drug tests, keeping parents separated from their families.
Parents failing drug tests, their kids kept in state custody as a result, and now some drug testing labs are under scrutiny.
Atlanta News First investigates uncovered allegations of false positive drug screenings across the nation.
Deidreana Hefner wants to cut right to the chase. There's no point in hiding these mugshots. She did drugs. It landed her in prison.
I needed to get arrested to have that long, clear frame of mind.
A Cherokee County mom with an addiction that caused intervention from the Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services, known as DFACS. The state agency placed her 2 kids in foster care October 2021. To get her kids back, Deidreana agreed to random drug screens.
It's going into my 3rd year.
Nearly 3 years of sobriety, except her drug tests don't show that.
Flabbergasted, honestly, and I was like, how is that even possible?
Hair follicle drug test results from DFAC's subcontracted labs show multiple times she tested positive for drugs.
Saying that I failed drug screens that I know I haven't used any drugs.
After positive drug tests, the state has the right to ask a judge to consider terminating Deidreana's parental rights. So at the advice of her attorney and even her mom, Deidreana began getting tested at independent labs too.
Ours is negative and theirs is saying positive.
State subcontracted labs showing positive for meth, independent labs showing negative. Deidreana's allegation of false positives is no outlier. Atlanta News First Investigates uncovered credibility issues with two of the largest labs subcontracted to do drug screens for defects. The labs are Aver Health and Expertox. Lawsuits around the country show a history of false positive allegations. Expertox defects records show their lab did not typically perform a specialized drug test called DL isomer. It would identify legal drugs like medicine versus illicit drugs. Although not required by the state, it could help minimize claims of false positives. And Aver Health, for years, the lab company actually held contracts directly with the state to exclusively do all drug screens for defects. That exclusive statewide contract was not renewed again last year. This after records reveal long-standing concerns from caseworkers. A Defects County director reporting a 2019 case of an alleged false negative, calling it a safety issue for a child, writing, "We rely on drug screen results to be accurate. We received an erroneous negative on the mother. It was a key factor in returning a child to the mother." Aver Health called the results a keying error due to manual entry. Drug tests, which help decide the fate of families like Deidreana's. Her two kids remain in foster care.
Sorry. It's been heartbreaking, really, because not only have my choices affected them and I've had to see what they've gone through, but I've done everything that I've needed to do to fight to get them back, and it's like all of my efforts have failed.
All signs point to her sobriety, says peer mentor Christina Carter.
So Deidreana, she is a walking miracle, 100%. The moms and the dads that they're
Not only is Christina certified in addiction recovery, but she's also the co-founder of Moms Adopting Moms, a local organization that helps parents with defects cases get back on their feet. Case management, recovery, housing, employment. Adriana's case hits hard for Christina because she says she's witnessed the sobriety and stability, especially after Adriana just gave birth to a baby boy and takes care of him.
Because I'm not supposed to be invested in these things emotionally, but how could you not, right? I couldn't imagine being sober and doing everything in my power and having these people who know that I'm sober and then being told that I'm not and having my kids taken away.
Should drug tests alone determine the outcome of parental rights?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, they are one tool.
Former defects director Tom Rawlings reacting to our findings.
And I think that, what you've highlighted in the reporting that you've been doing on this issue is that I think not only our state child welfare system, but I think other states, we need to look at how we're using these tests.
Rawlings was director from 2018 to 2021, a time in which he reviewed complaints of false positives and false negatives. He agrees the results may create caseworker bias about a parent's sobriety, but now he advocates reviewing policy and standards around the reliability of the test.
We need to be talking with experts on, what does it actually mean to have this particular level of positivity. I think one of the things that may very well come out of this series and this investigation you're doing is we really need to be looking at how we use drug screening and how we ensure that a drug screen is not the end-all, be-all.
Deidreana and her family hope it's not the end-all, be-all for their case either.
We're willing to do whatever is necessary, but I just don't have a lot of faith in our system.
I love all of my kids, and I'm never gonna stop fighting for them.
And it's just heartbreaking, for her to have to go through this. But I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
A young girl taken from her father over his alleged drug use. Families ripped apart and left in limbo. They claim it's all over false positive drug tests.
Now, a Metro Atlanta judge calls for change in the way these test results are used in the courtroom.
It is a blessing, I tell you.
William Brock just got off his first job. Before heading to his second, he's making a trip to see his daughter. The toddler is not at home. She's in the custody of Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services, DFACS.
She's a bright, beautiful young little girl, And no, she wants to come home. She really doesn't understand what's going on. She asks a lot of questions, but it's hard to explain to a 3-year-old.
Hard to explain why they only have 2-hour state supervised visits.
Part of your case plan to get her back in your custody is sobriety and random drug screens.
Yes, ma'am.
And how's that been going?
Well, it hadn't been going good.
It goes back to William's criminal history. He lost child custody in Floyd County. He was on drugs. He went to prison on drug charges. The 59-year-old admits the past addiction, but says the state conviction turned his life around. The sentence included living in a facility for substance abuse and treatment.
It's anger management, parenting, criminal addictive thinking. You work on all different kind of things.
Upon successful completion of the 9-month program, this summer the state granted William parole.
Is in compliance with his conditions of parole or probation supervision.
He's currently in compliance, as this letter shows. He's passed all Georgia Department of Corrections random drug screens. William's freedom depends on these tests. Meanwhile, his custody case depends on random drug screens too, a separate set done by DFACS Labs. But the problem?
All the ones from Department of Corrections are saying you're negative, and the ones from DFACS are saying you're positive.
Yes, ma'am.
Positive for methamphetamine.
And it's unbelievable.
These tests are all hair follicle samples taken from his arm. Expertox is contracted to do the tests on behalf of DFACS. The lab was the subject of a previous Atlanta News First investigation. Our reporting found Expertox does not use a specialized test called DL isomer. It distinguishes between legal methamphetamine like medicine versus illicit meth like the street drug. The test could minimize false positives, or at least claims of it.
The DL isomer test is what needs to be done.
In an October 1st interview, Expertox told Atlanta News First Investigates they would use the method statewide. However, it seems as if the company has not, at least in William's case. The lab writing this disclosure statement in his November positive result. The DL isomer test for methamphetamine was not performed. As a result, Expertox Inc. was unable to distinguish between illicit and non-illicit forms of methamphetamine in this sample.
Yes, they're still in my sobriety.
State policy does not mandate the method.
I began there as a judge pro tem.
Judge Peggy Walker suggests that's a part of the concern.
But it also seems like the state doesn't know to require it.
And that's absolutely correct. What is missing in terms of services for our children and families is that quality control measure.
The senior judge for juvenile courts of Georgia acknowledges in the past she's made assumptions based on a parent's drug screen results. But Walker now cautions her peers to take more training on the science, just as she has. The 29-year veteran on the bench argues drug screens are not always right.
That's where the fundamental fairness comes in. And that's where it becomes our obligation to look at the big picture.
She watched our stories questioning the reliability of hair follicle testing and parents getting independent tests at their own expense at the advice of their attorney.
And not solely focus on those drug screens, because not everyone has the financial ability to have that testing and to have an attorney who will step in, and challenge those results as dramatically as your story.
William challenges his DFACS results, spending $75 out of his own pocket for independent hair follicle tests. So each time DFACS randomly screens him,
go get my own.
These independent results show negative for drugs. The father pays to prove his innocence, although he maintains the burden should be on the state to prove accuracy of its own screens, tests that determine the outcome of a family.
And it's just heartbreaking, for her to have to go through this. But I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
And then I just started crying. I didn't know what to do. I was shocked.
A first responder celebrated for saving lives almost loses everything over a positive drug test.
And families reunited.
Well, if I never would have saw your story, I never would have known what was going on, and I probably might have gave up.
And Atlanta News First Investigates helps one man clear his name and bring his family back together.
When you need a drug test, you expect it to be accurate.
But after our reporting, some Georgia labs got a warning from state officials about repeated allegations of false positive drug screens.
This is no laughing matter for Lisa Trantham, but laughing
It was really bad.
is how she gets through telling the story, one where she's accused of being on drugs. It started in 2024 when Elisa's 7-year-old daughter had severe bladder troubles.
She had gastric issues. I had been through 3 specialists. Each one of them had the same treatment that was not working, and she was getting worse.
These x-rays show the problem. This area of her abdomen should be empty. Instead, a huge blockage.
It was like the size of a baby's head. There's no way it was coming out.
It led to irregular and uncontrollable bowel movements.
She had soiling, so I was like, I'm not risking the bullying. I'm not risking other kids finding out.
Elisa kept her daughter home, telling a school official they're stopping the medicine as well. That's when staff reported Elisa to the Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services. Defects, she alleges.
Stopping that treatment was to actually figure out one that would really solve your daughter's problem.
Yes.
But instead, you end up having more problems from the state.
Yes, and every time I tried that treatment, she was in pain, she was crying. She still wouldn't even use the bathroom for days and days.
Elisa understands why she was reported to child welfare because school workers are among Georgia's mandated reporters, employees and officials legally required to report suspected abuse or neglect. Elisa would know, a mandated reporter herself as a local paramedic.
I've always been the caller. I've never been the one called on, I do work with a lot of behavioral health transports as far as suicidal, detoxing from substance abuse. Get a lot of children in this system as well.
So when defects workers came over to inspect the house and collected hair samples from Elisa's head for a hair follicle drug screen,
So I just kind of do like in the back.
the trained paramedic was not surprised, but the results left her stunned. Positive for multiple drugs, including methamphetamine.
I was shocked, and then I just started crying. I didn't know what to do. I was really shocked.
A veteran paramedic celebrated and awarded for saving lives, now threatened by accusations of endangering the lives of her children. In fact, a defects worker wrote in case notes, there's a safety threat with concerns of substance abuse, saying Elisa must have 24/7 supervision when around her 2 minor children, adding Elisa must comply with 2 weekly random drug screens.
Do you use drugs?
No, no. I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I definitely don't use drugs.
But she is on these doctor-prescribed heart rate and ADHD medications. Trying to get to the bottom of the alleged false positive, she went digging.
The only reason why I knew is because I saw your other stories, and I was like, oh no.
Atlanta News First Investigates uncovered a troubled pattern of some labs subcontracted to do defects drug screens. Lawsuits, internal reviews, and complaints outline an unreliable system, the way some tests are performed, failing to distinguish between illicit drugs and legal medicine, and which drug concentration levels determine a true positive result. After our reporting, Georgia Defects said it was beginning the process of an audit back in March. Since then, it remains unclear if that's happened. However, we obtained this memo the agency sent to its drug screen providers. All providers must immediately review whether current lab partners are certified by SAMHSA, the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or that they meet SAMHSA standards, including cutoff levels at initial testing and confirmation testing, meaning labs should do at least 2 tests to verify a positive, but also use certain calculations that measure how much of a drug is present in a sample, which in turn further confirms if there's actual illicit drug use. As for Elisa, she saw an expert toxicologist to review her case. His report validated her alleged false positives from defects labs were due to her medication. To cover all bases, at the advice of our other stories, she even began getting independent drug tests done too.
And thank God for those articles, because immediately I was like, I'm gonna go get my own test every time they test me.
The independent results negative. DFACS officially telling the mom July 3rd they've closed the case against her.
I don't talk about it. I just pretend like it never happened so that they can forget, And hopefully this will never happen again.
A Georgia mother's kids ripped away because of an alleged drug addiction. Atlanta News First investigates her fight to prove her sobriety. Two children taken away from their mother because of her alleged drug addiction.
But the mom says she has never taken drugs in her life. Atlanta News First investigates found the drug test itself could be to blame.
I made this for her on her first birthday.
Rachel Fuller shows us her 4-year-old daughter's bedroom.
It just feels empty.
Across the hall, there's one for her 3-year-old son, too. Neither toddler is home. In fact, the children have not been in years.
So your kids are not with you right now. Where are they?
My rights have actually been terminated.
The last time Rachel saw them was February 2024, but this case goes back to 2020, the first time she gave birth. Per stated process after labor and delivery, the hospital drug screened mom and her newborn. They tested positive for methamphetamine.
I was shocked because I'm a nurse, I'm an RN, been a nurse for 9 years. It was just really shocking to me.
Georgia's Division of Family and Children's Services, DFACS, intervened, eventually taking custody of Rachel's daughter. When she later gave birth to a son, she says because of the ongoing open case, the state agency took custody of him too.
She loves unicorns.
So to get her kids back, she agreed to random drug screens.
Have you ever done drugs?
I've never done drugs.
The mom thought the mandated test would prove her innocence. Instead, DFACS records said it repeatedly proved Rachel was positive for meth.
When you know you don't use a drug, but everyone around you is looking at you and they have these tests, in the beginning I didn't understand why I was failing.
Until recently.
I have very severe asthma to the point where I've been intubated and all kinds of stuff.
Medical records document it as a chronic problem. The solution? Inhalers. The inhaler shrinks blood vessels and tissue to open up airways. Rachel uses multiple, including this one, the over-the-counter nasal decongestion inhaler levomethamphetamine. Just as the name implies, the active ingredient, methamphetamine. And it's why Rachel believes her drug screens kept coming back positive.
I love my kids more than anything. And I've never stopped fighting. And I'm never going to stop fighting. I want my children back.
Atlanta News First investigates uncovered some labs contracted to do drug screens on behalf of the state do not perform a specialized test that distinguishes legal meth like medicine and inhalers from illicit meth like the street drug. That highly specialized test, known as the DL isomer. It can be expensive, pose technical challenges, and state policy does not require it. In Rachel's case, the state made an error by not performing it and had no reliable evidence to demonstrate she has used or abused controlled substances, according to an independent toxicology report presented in court on the mom's behalf. Its author, Dr. Lyle Burgoon, a veteran toxicologist who worked for the Environmental Protection Agency and U.S. Army. Despite their testimony, court records suggest the state did not find Rachel's claims credible. Trial transcripts show DFACS attorneys accused the mother of falsifying paperwork in the past, an allegation Rachel admits. She says she sent an email to the facility where she visited her kids, making it look as if the caseworker granted Rachel permission to see her kids sooner than allowed.
So would you agree you falsified documentation?
I do agree with that, but I shouldn't have been put in that position. I'm not a dishonest person, but anyone, when they're desperate enough for their children.
Alleging if the tests were accurate in the first place, her kids would have never been in state custody.
To a sibling or to a parent.
Melissa Carter sees it that way too.
We need to require confirmation testing, and we need to create mechanisms to pay for it.
The executive director for Barton Child Law and Policy says there should be immediate changes to mandate specific drug screen standards for labs contracted to do work on behalf of Georgia.
There's a real key need here to act with urgency.
Melissa argues taxpayers are footing a bill for incomplete work.
These are not one-offs. This actually is kind of just routine in our child welfare system.
It's unclear how often false positives occur in these cases, but what is certain, a significant number of Georgia parents are subjected to these types of drug screens. We found 40% of all Georgia's child welfare cases are due to substance use allegations.
At this point, this bureaucracy is knowingly recommitted, doubling down, or at least sustaining its kind of routine practices of relying on these fallible drug tests. The system itself is perpetuating the very harm that it's supposed to be responsible for protecting children from.
Protecting children like Rachel's.
It's the worst feeling. It's been a hell. I wouldn't wish this on anybody. It's so hard to be in this house and see them memories everywhere.
Parents accused of using illegal drugs now reunited with their children. Why they credit our reporting.
Well, if I never would have saw your story, I never would have known what was going on.
Kids reunited with their family after being separated for years because their parents alleged drug use.
These reunions are a part of two separate cases, but in both instances, the families credit our reporting.
Hey, look. Hey.
William Brock and his daughter, Olivia, reunited. For 17 months, the toddler was in foster care. Olivia was 2.5 when she first entered the custody of Georgia Division of Family Children Services, DFACS. She's now exiting on her 4th birthday.
Blow 'em out,
the best birthday ever.
Yeah, she got them all.
Although her series of gifts include toys and a visit to this park,
Daddy. Hey.
Perhaps her favorite is the presence of her father. Olivia not wanting to let Dad go, not even for this interview.
Why don't you shave your beard?
This moment made possible, Dad says, partly because of Atlanta News First investigations.
Well, if I never would have saw your story, I never would have known what was going on, and I probably might have gave up. You ready?
Yeah.
Because he says as he remained sober, he kept failing drug screens. He did not understand why until he came across our year-long investigation. It exposed some state-contracted labs have a trail of alleged false positive drug screens. That was 2024, and after those stories, we met William, who shared his own.
And it's unbelievable.
The dad adamant he has not used drugs since July 2023. It all goes back to William's criminal history. He lost custody of Olivia in Floyd County after being on drugs, going to prison on drug charges. The 59-year-old admits his past addiction, but says the state conviction turned his life around. The sentence he completed included living in a facility for substance abuse and treatment. To get his daughter back, William agreed to DFACS mandated drug screens. His hair follicle results repeatedly showed positive for methamphetamine. But our investigations found some labs contracted to do drug screens for DFACS do not perform a specialized test that would distinguish between legal meth used in legal medicine versus illicit meth like the street drug. Plus, as we reported, federal guidance outlines the many disadvantages of hair testing include environmental contamination.
Would you like to see DFACS stop using hair follicle tests?
Absolutely. They need to come up with something different. I mean, because there's a lot of problems with those.
After learning of the problems, for months, anytime William had to do a DFACS drug screen, that same day he'd get a separate independent drug test at Atrium Health, paying out of pocket for it.
Ultimately, I had to just keep proving
proving my innocence.
This separate independent test routinely showing he was negative for drugs. Armed with these independent results, a defects judge ultimately ruled in William's favor, closing the dad's case.
I can beat this thing. I never let them get to me, and it's just hard. This right here makes it all worthwhile. This day right here, the days to come. I never let them get to me. They tried, but I just kept doing what I had to do. Life's a whole lot better sober, and we're just going forward from this day.
Their long walk into this Roswell Park, not nearly as long as the journey for this family.
Don't give up until the miracle happens.
The miracle, Dadriana Hefner says, happened Wednesday when a judge ruled in her favor, ordering to close the child welfare case against Dadriana, reuniting the mom and her daughters, who've been in foster care for 3 years.
I've just worked really hard for this, so it was overwhelming, honestly. Overwhelming in a good way, but I've just worked so hard for this. This is like all the efforts that I've put into this, especially within the past year and a half. Now it's finally like the end of it, and we get to be whole and together again.
Finally, because for so long, drugs left her family broken. She admits to past addiction, which led to arrest and intervention from the Division of Family and Children's Services, DFACS. Her kids placed with the foster family. To get them back, Dadriana agreed to DFACS random drug screens. When we first met the mom back in 2024, she'd been sober for about 3 years. But some of her drug screens did not show that. Hair follicle drug tests from DFACS subcontracted labs show multiple times she tested positive for drugs. So Dadriana says caseworkers believed she was still on drugs.
You want mommy to come with you?
She recalls DFACS lawyers even discussing possible termination of her parental rights. With few people on her side, Dadriana says she only remained strong because of her own mother's support.
It felt good because a lot of people looked at me like, well, these drug tests are saying this. And people would tell my mom like, well, the drug test is saying this. And my mom was like, I know my daughter is not using.
A year-long Atlanta News First investigation uncovered a history of concerns and formal complaints of false positives from Georgia labs. We found some labs contracted to do drug screens on behalf of DFACS don't typically perform a specialized drug test called DL isomer. The test distinguishes between legal drugs like medicine versus illicit drugs. Although not required by the state, it could help minimize claims of false positives. So, at the advice of an attorney, and after watching our previous investigation, Dadriana began to get independent drug screens too. Every time DFACS tested her, she went to a third-party lab as well.
They're not cheap. They're expensive. I've come out of pocket money that I did not have just to prove my innocence.
Yeah.
So,
would you say over the last few years you've spent hundreds and hundreds to do it?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Probably about $1,000.
But a process that proved priceless.
You want me to go on the slide with you?
For these very moments. Armed with repeated negative drug screens from independent labs, Dadriana was able to fight in court and win custody of her kids.
I was upset at the system, really, because I knew that I was sober and they were trying to tell me that I wasn't, and I had to jump through hoops and they already make you do a lot, and I was doing all of that, but then I had to do even more to prove that I was sober, and it took longer, but I'm where I'm at now.
Sierra, it's just stunning when you look at this body of work, but what I keep going back to is this hair follicle test. Even the experts say it's unreliable, so why is DFACS still using it?
The parents have that same question. People want to see the agency stop relying on these hair follicle drug screens, but we've talked to DFACS about this. Now, they have not officially been a part of the series. Sometimes they've given us statements saying we don't comment on specific cases, but when we talk to them about the specific hair follicle drug screen screen usage, they always go back to how it's a tool. If you use urine, you're really only able to tell what someone's actively doing. But they point out if you use hair, it shows a pattern. So it can go back potentially 3 months, and they like that as a tool. There's no indication at this time that they will stop using hair follicle. The agency says they just plan to use a variety of tests, and if a parent wants to have secondary tests, they still have the right to do that.
Now, every investigator on our team at Uncovered gets to see the tip emails that we get, and I keep seeing these come in week after week, day after day. Despite your reporting, this is still an ongoing issue?
This is still an ongoing issue to the best of our knowledge. We talked about it in our reporting that the agency committed to some kind of audit, but as far as we can tell, there hasn't been an official audit. We know, as we cited in one of the stories, that they sent out that memo to their drug screening providers saying, hey, you got to make sure you're meeting federal standards. But ultimately, the problem is still persisting because these hair follicle drug screens are happening. We hope that maybe ahead of the next legislative session, more lawmakers will see this reporting and maybe examine it, because the problem persists. As you mentioned, we get emails, phone calls. My bread and butter is child welfare, and most of my tips are related to drug screen issues.
Great work.
Thank you.